I want to speak to you directly because this isn't just a message. This is a reminder of who you already are and who you're becoming every single day. You're already operating at a high level. You're already living in that ProActivator DNA: ownership, discipline, consistency, showing up for your purpose even when the world isn't watching. But you and I both know something. There's always another level. And that's what this message is about. Too many people out there, they wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait for a result. They wait for a sign. They wait for something external to validate them. But you're not wired like that. You don't wait for a result to feel like a winner. You create results because you act like one. And the way you've been showing up, the way you lead your family, your business, your habits, your principles, that's already proof. But this message is me handing you the next calibration, the next sharpening, the next level of command. Because here's the truth. The way you show up in the small hours, the way you lead yourself before anyone else sees it, the way you dominate the unseen hours, those are the moments that define whether you win the day or let it slip through your fingers. And I know you know this. I've seen it in your story, in your habits, in the way you talk about your mission. You've already been living it. But I also know a high caliber man like you doesn't want comfort. You want friction. You want that next edge. Winning your day isn't magic. It's not mystery. It's not hype. It's structure. It's discipline. It's repetition. It's you deciding every single day that the standard does not move. Not for emotions, not for circumstances, not for excuses. And that's why I'm talking directly to you right now. Because a man like you doesn't need motivation. A man like you needs alignment. You need someone to say, this is the exact framework. This is the next dial to rotate. This is the next level to activate. You win the day by building it from the ground up, by installing rules, your rules that remind you who you are, rules that anchor you when the world tries to pull you sideways, rules that do not change when your mood changes. That's ProActivator DNA: identity over emotion, purpose over comfort, leadership over reaction. Because if you don't live by rules, you live by reaction. And you're not a reactive man. You never have been. But even the strongest men need reminders. Men like us, we need structure. Not because we're weak, but because we're dangerous without it. Every day, life will try to throw noise at you: distractions, comfort, resistance, self-doubt. They all show up, and they show up hardest for the men with the highest callings. You already know that. But when you have a standard to return to, when you have rules that pull you back into alignment, when you have a clear identity that does not bend, you become unstoppable. Most people lose today because they lose the first moment. They drift. They choose comfort. They negotiate, but not you. And not anymore. Not after this. This message I'm giving you, this is the sharpened version. This is the leveled up code. This is the ProActivator framework dialed directly into your life, your mission, your level. And I'm giving it to you not because you're lacking, but because you're loaded with potential and you know it. The way you operate already puts you in the top tier of men. But this message, this system, this is the path to sharpen that edge, to raise that standard, to eliminate even the smallest leaks in your focus, your execution, and your rhythm. Because the man you are today is strong. But the man you're becoming, he's dangerous. He's precise. He's unshakable. He's inevitable. So let's get into this. Not hype, not theory. Real talk, real structure, real identity. Here are the rules, your rules, the ones that will keep you aligned, activated, and leading at the highest level. Let's start with rule 1. Own the morning, or the day owns you. This first rule is non-negotiable. The tone of your entire day is decided before the world even touches you, before a single text, before a client message, before a responsibility pulls at you, before anything external gets a vote. And you already know this. You're a structured guy, a disciplined guy, a high caliber operator. But rule one is where even strong men leave power on the table, not because they're weak, but because they underestimate how much the first hour shapes everything that follows. If your morning is grounded, your day is grounded. If your morning is chaotic, your day echoes that chaos. This isn't about being a morning person. This is about being a leader. Leaders don't drift into the day. They don't stumble into their first hour hoping their mind falls into order. They command their day before their day commands them. When most people wake up, they reach for the phone. Notifications hit them like a slap. A rush of inputs, emotions, noise, obligations, before their feet even hit the floor. But you're a proactivator. You don't wake up reactive. You wake up intentional. Listen, the first move of the day belongs to your identity, or it belongs to your excuses. One of them will take the wheel. Your earliest actions send a message to your nervous system. We are in command, or we're already behind. And your body listens. When comfort whispers, give me 5 more minutes. That's not an alarm clock test. That's an identity test. That's the first war of the day. If you hit snooze, you've already trained your mind to negotiate with itself. You've already surrendered your first win. But when you stand up, even if you're tired, even when it's dark, even when comfort says, not today, you've already told your system, we move when we said we would. We lead ourselves first. That's ProActivator DNA. Ownership before emotion. And here's where you shine. You've already got structure. You already rise with intention. But rule one isn't just wake up early. It's wake up in command. Here's the blueprint. Go internal before input, before the world gets access to you. You get access to you. You sit with your breath. You sit with your direction. You decide who you are today. You're not waking up and waiting. You're becoming him in the first minutes. No noise, no social, no emails, just command. 2, move your body, even lightly. This isn't about a workout PR. This is about signaling we're awake, we're alive, we execute. Motion resets the brain. It gives you clarity, rhythm, momentum. 3, lock in the mission for the day. Not a to-do list, not scattered tasks. 3 things. What absolutely gets done today? The non-negotiables. The things tied to the future you're building. Most people wake up and build lists that are really just escape plans. Busy work disguised as productivity. But you're built differently. You choose impact, not noise. 4, install the identity. This part matters most. You declare, this is who I am today. This is how I move. This is my standard. Not emotional, structural, like flipping a switch. This is where the proactivator inside you locks in. Because your identity is stronger than your moods. And once your identity is anchored, your actions follow without friction. Why this rule matters so much for you? You're already leading your life with intention. But rule 1, this is the multiplier. This is the rule that aligns your power, your clarity, your faith, your mission. When you own the morning, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. You walk into the day like it belongs to you. You set the pace. You set the rhythm. You set the standard. And everything else falls in line. If the day hits you sideways, if things get messy, if things go sideways, you're still good because your morning already grounded you. You're not built for damage control. You're built for leadership. You're built for direction. You're built for momentum. And that begins with rule 1. Own the morning, or the day will own you. You choose the identity. You choose the tone. You choose the first win. And that's how you win. before the rest of the world even wakes up. Because once you own the mornings, you step straight into the second rule, the rule that determines the tone of your entire day. Rule 2, dominate your first hard decision every single morning. Right after you've grounded yourself, right after you've taken command, there is a moment, a small, quiet, subtle moment where resistance shows up. You know the one I'm talking about, that little tension in your chest, that hesitation between what you know you need to do and what feels easier right now. That is the real battlefield. Most people get hit with that tension and they stall, they delay, they negotiate. They tell themselves, maybe in 5 minutes, maybe after I check this real quick, maybe once I feel ready. But every second a man hesitates, resistance gains power. Every second he waits, doubt grows louder. Every second he negotiates, he reinforces the identity of hesitation. And you're not a man of hesitation, not anymore. Not with the level you're stepping into. This rule is simple, but it is everything. The first hard decision of your day must never own you. You must own it immediately. You hunt that decision. You move toward it. You get to it early. And you dominate it with speed and certainty. Not because it's convenient, not because it's comfortable, but because it's foundational. This is the hinge that swings the entire door of your day. That first hard decision could be the workout, the focused work session, the writing, the studying, the phone call you don't want to make, the thing you know matters most, but your body wants to delay. That's the dragon. And the rule is this: slay it first. No debate, no drama, no delay, because when you kill that first dragon, you send a clear signal to your entire nervous system. I don't get run by comfort. I don't follow emotion. I follow identity. That's ProActivator DNA right there. Identity over impulse. Standard over feeling. You want confidence? Do the thing you're avoiding. You want discipline? Take action before you feel ready. You want momentum? Move while everyone else is still negotiating with themselves. And here's the truth. This rule isn't about intensity. It's not about crushing yourself or forcing massive output. It's about breaking the pattern of delay. It's about collapsing the gap between decision and action. Because once you start, momentum does the rest. Once you begin, doubt begins to die. Once you go, your nervous system shifts into motion and the whole game changes. You build this rule into your identity. I don't wait. I don't stall. I don't dance with excuses. I do what needs to be done, especially when I don't feel like it. That's self-leadership. That's the mindset of a pro-activator. That's the mindset of a high-caliber man. Because if you let emotion vote on your execution, it will always choose comfort. Always. That's why this isn't a suggestion. This is a rule. You win the first battle. You walk directly into resistance. You choose power over comfort. You choose speed over hesitation. You choose movement over mood. And here's what happens when you do it consistently. The hesitation shrinks. The resistance weakens. The emotional noise gets quieter. Your identity starts to expect action, not avoidance. You become dangerous, locked in, automatic. A man whose default is motion. This is what separates good from great and great from elite. The hardest part of almost anything is the beginning. The first rep, the first keystroke, the first call, the first step. And if you start strong, everything else becomes easier. If you start fast, you build rhythm. If you start with courage, your entire psychological state shifts. So you make this rule non-negotiable. Dominate the first hard decision. Identify it early. Attack it quickly. Never walk past it. Because the moment you avoid that decision, you start losing the day. And you don't lose days anymore. Not with the level of discipline you're stepping into. Not with the identity you're building. Not with the calling you have on your life. You know the cost of hesitation, you know the power of execution, and you've already decided who you are. So when that first moment of resistance hits, you don't pause, you don't think, you don't negotiate, you move. Immediately, that is rule 2, the rule that sets the pace, the rule that establishes dominance, the rule that separates who you were from who you are becoming. This is where your momentum begins. Because once you dominate that first hard decision, you trigger momentum. And momentum is powerful, but only if you protect it. This brings us straight into rule 3. Protect your focus like your future depends on it. Because it does. Focus isn't just productivity, it isn't just efficiency. Focus is identity. Focus is leadership. Focus is the ability to direct your energy, your attention, your discipline into something that matters without breaking, without leaking, without getting pulled out of alignment. Every time the world knocks on your door, you don't get what you want. You get what you focus on. You don't live the life you dream of. You live the life your attention allows. Most men never win the day because they never win a single hour. Their mind is scattered. Their attention is pulled. They jump from task to task, distraction to distraction, thought to thought. They never stay anywhere long enough to build depth. Depth is where breakthroughs live. Depth is where your edge is sharpened. Depth is where the ProActivator in you turns from intention into performance. You train focus the same way you train strength, through reps, through resistance, through boundaries. It doesn't just happen, it is built. And it starts with questions only a serious man asks himself. What do I allow into my space? What steals my attention? What multiplies it? Where does my energy leak? What am I willing to eliminate to protect my mission? Your mental bandwidth is not infinite. You only get so much clarity, so many high quality decisions, so much clean energy in a day. And if you give that away casually, it's gone. And when it's gone, your execution suffers. Your conviction weakens. Your purpose gets foggy. You start reacting instead of leading. That's why you protect your focus like it's sacred. Because it is. You're a high-level man. Your calling is heavy. Your responsibility is real. Your potential is uncommon. That means your focus must be guarded like a fortress. Here's the blueprint. Remove the noise. Silence the distractions. Walk away from conversations that burn energy without producing anything. You don't owe your attention to every vibration, every notification, every person who wants a piece of your time. Build walls around deep work. This is where real growth happens. Not in scattered spurts, but in sustained immersion. When you sit down to work, it's a ritual. You're not checking your phone. You're not bouncing between tabs. You're not dabbling. You're entering a zone, a war zone for most men, but a training ground for you. Time block like a professional. You don't ask your brain to switch gears every 5 minutes. You give it time to ramp, time to sink in, time to access depth. Because the best work never happens in the first 5 minutes. It happens after your mind warms up, after the discomfort fades, after you enter alignment. This is why your focus becomes a superpower. In a world addicted to interruption, you become rare. You become dangerous. You become one of the few men left who can stay with something long enough to extract results. And let me say this directly to you. Your focus is part of your ProActivator DNA. It's in how you listen, how you speak, how you handle responsibility, how you commit, how you show up. But now you're leveling up. And that means making this rule non-negotiable. That means saying no to everything that dilutes your mission. Not because you're selfish, because you're responsible, because the man who protects his focus protects his future. The world will try to hijack your attention every single day. Platforms are built to distract you. Apps are built to addict you. People will pull at you. Life will try to scatter you. And if you don't protect your focus intentionally, you will default to distraction. But not you. Not at this level. You commit to clarity. You commit to boundaries. You commit to depth. You commit to the vision. Because what you eliminate is just as important as what you pursue. And once you start living like this, people notice. They feel your presence. They see your discipline. They respect your rhythm. They adjust to your standard. They'll ask you, how do you stay so locked in? How do you get so much done? How are you always so dialed? And your answer will be simple. I don't let the world decide what I think about. I protect my focus. I protect my mission. I protect my future. That's rule 3. Once your focus is protected, once your attention is locked in, once your mission is clear, the next battle isn't external, it's internal. Rule 4 picks up right here, exactly where you're already standing in the fight. Stop negotiating with your excuses. Every day, at some point, your mind will offer you an exit, a story, a perfectly packaged reason that sounds logical enough to let you off the hook. And it will sound intelligent, it will sound reasonable, it will sound like self-care, like kindness, like strategy, but it's not. It's the old version of you trying to survive inside the new one. Excuses aren't random, they're rehearsed, they're conditioned, they're deeply ingrained neural patterns your nervous system built years ago to protect you from discomfort. Patterns you no longer identify with, but that still show up when you push toward greatness. And here's the truth, the higher the level you rise to, the more sophisticated your excuses become. Most men never understand this, but you do because you've tasted both sides, momentum and resistance. You know what it feels like when your spirit is on fire, and you know what it feels like when your mind tries to pull you back into comfort. This is where the separation happens. The rule is simple. No negotiations, none. When the excuse shows up, you do not entertain it. You do not weigh pros and cons. You do not give it oxygen. You shut it down immediately, decisively. Because excuses survive in conversation, they grow in hesitation, they gain power in the pause. Every time you stop to consider an excuse, you're feeding it. You're telling your mind it might be valid. And once the mind thinks it's valid, it will build a case for it. And once the case is built, your discipline has already left the room. You can't let that happen. You're operating at too high of a level now. So you build a system. One phrase, one sentence, one internal command that interrupts the pattern. Not today. I don't negotiate with my feelings. That's not who I am anymore. We move, we execute, we finish. Pick the one that resonates with your voice. Speak it with authority. Speak it like identity, because that's what breaks the loop. Excuses only work on the undecided, but you're not undecided. You've already chosen your identity. You've already raised your standard. You've already proven that your purpose is stronger than your mood. This is where your ProActivator DNA becomes crystal clear. Because a ProActivator never gives emotion the power to decide execution. The moment you do that, you become reactive. And that's not who you are. You lead from clarity. You lead from conviction. You lead from standard, not from comfort, not from convenience, not from temporary feelings. And here's what happens when you start applying this rule consistently. The excuses get weaker, the noise gets softer, the gap between decision and action collapses. Your identity strengthens. You become the type of man who doesn't flinch, the type of man who doesn't break momentum, the type of man who doesn't lose battles in the dark when no one is watching. This is where the real transformation happens, not in perfect days, not in hype, not in motivation, but in the quiet moments where you choose strength when weakness would be easier, in the moment where you hear the voice that says, "You're tired, you've done enough, do it later, take the day off." And instead of debating, you act. You act because that's who you are becoming. You act because you refuse to live at the level of compromise. You act because the man you're building cannot be negotiated with. This is why this rule matters so much. Because discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being predictable. It's about being someone you can trust. You build trust with yourself every time you shut down an excuse and move anyway. Every time you do what needs to get done when it would have been easy not to. Every time you keep the promise to yourself, even when your feelings are weak. That's identity. That's character. That's self-leadership at the highest level. The next time your excuse shows up, and it will, do not pause. Do not think. Do not negotiate. Move. Move like a man who already knows what this day is going to be. Move like a man who is done living at the level of old patterns. Move like a man who has already decided his standard. That is rule 4. Stop negotiating. Stop entertaining the old story. Stop giving emotion a seat at the table. Your future isn't built from feelings. It's built from execution. Once you stop negotiating with excuses, once you cut off the mental back doors, you step into a new level of clarity, a new level of presence, a new level of execution. And this is where Rule 5 hits with full force. Build completion momentum. Most people walk around carrying mental weight they don't even realize they're carrying. Open loops, unfinished tasks, half-done commitments, promises they made to themselves but never completed, ideas they started but never closed. And every one of those incomplete things drains energy, drains focus, drains confidence. Your brain keeps track. Your nervous system remembers. And the more incomplete you are, the heavier life feels. Not because the tasks are big, but because they're open. But you, a man of your caliber, a man with your mission, you don't need more to do. You need more things finished. Completion creates clarity. Completion creates confidence. Completion is evidence that you are who you say you are, not a man who just starts, not a man who just talks, but a man who finishes. This is one of your strongest traits already. You follow through. But now we're tightening the screws. We're refining the system. We're raising the standard. Because this rule isn't about perfection. It is about power. Here's the truth. Unfinished work weighs you down even when you try to ignore it. It sits in the back of your mind. It leaks energy. It clutters your clarity. It slows your momentum. And the opposite is also true. When you start stacking completions one after another, you feel lighter, sharper, more in control, more grounded, more confident. Completion becomes oxygen. So here's the blueprint. 1. Identify your open loops. Scan your environment, your tasks, your phone, your notes. Find the things you've avoided, postponed, or left halfway. The unsent email, the message you haven't replied to, the call you need to return, the small task you've pushed to tomorrow for weeks, the thing you said you start but haven't finished. 2, pick one, finish it, no drama, no overthinking. Just close the loop. 3, then pick another. Finish that one too. Fast, clean, decisive. You're not chasing perfection. You're building momentum because completion is a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger with reps. And here's the key. The size of the task doesn't matter. The consistency does. Most people procrastinate because they think things need to be done perfectly. But you're not most people. You don't need perfect. You need done. Done frees energy. Done removes friction. Done reinforces identity. And the more done you accumulate, the more unstoppable you become. This is the opposite of procrastination. Procrastination feels like relief, but it's actually debt, mental debt. emotional debt, execution debt, and the longer it lingers, the heavier it becomes. But completion is repayment. Completion is strength. Completion is proof. Completion is momentum. And momentum is everything for a man like you. Because momentum builds belief. Belief builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. Identity builds destiny. When you start stacking completions, you begin to see yourself differently. You become the man who closes things, who doesn't avoid, who doesn't postpone, who executes, who finishes, who delivers, who follows through. People around you feel it. They trust your word. They trust your presence. They trust your consistency. But more importantly, you trust yourself. Because self-trust is built in the quiet moments where you do small things with excellence. This is why completion momentum matters so deeply for you. You're not building a pile of tasks. You're building a track record of finishing, a track record of follow through, a track record of integrity. You're reinforcing the identity of a man who never leaves things undone, not because someone is watching, but because you are. And that identity compounds. Your power compounds. Your focus compounds. Your confidence compounds. This is how you maintain the edge. This is how you stay consistent. This is how you stay light on your feet. This is how you stay sharp in the mind. Rule 5 is simple. Finish what's in front of you. Finish what you started. Finish what you said. Finish what anchors your mission. Not perfectly, not forever, but fully. This is the rule that removes drag. This is the rule that removes clutter. This is the rule that turns your life into a clean runway for momentum. And momentum, that's your superpower. Once you start stacking completions, once your day becomes lighter, cleaner, sharper, you move straight into rule 6. Train before you perform. Most people wake up and immediately step onto the field of life. They jump straight into performance mode. They expect themselves to execute, to solve problems, to make decisions, to lead, to produce, all without warming up. Then they wonder why their focus is scattered, why their emotions feel fragile, why their decisions feel off. They skipped the most important part, preparation. You don't show up cold and expect to dominate. You train first, every day. Not just your body, your mind, your intention, your nervous system, your state. Because here's the truth. If you don't train your state intentionally, it will get trained accidentally by stress, by urgency, by distraction, by noise. And the world is full of noise. Training before performing is the separator. It's what allows you to enter your day with command instead of chaos, with presence instead of panic, with precision instead of reaction. It's the difference between a man who survives his day and a man who leads it. And this rule is where you already have an edge. You're disciplined. You're structured. You have routines. But now we're sharpening them, refining them, elevating them to a ProActivator level. Because training isn't a luxury. It's not a bonus. It's not something you squeeze in when you have time. It's a requirement. Here's the blueprint for this rule. 1. Create space to center yourself. Not for an hour, not for perfection, for direction, for grounding, for alignment. This can be breath work, reflection, prayer, meditation, whatever centers your identity before the world tries to pull at it. You're telling your system, we're not reacting today. We're building. 2. Move your body. Not a full workout, not heroics, just motion. Something that signals we are awake. We are present. We are activating power. Movement breaks the fog. It resets your brain. It shifts your chemistry. It elevates your state. It turns the lights on internally before the world demands anything externally. 3. Prime your mind. You don't enter the day mentally cold, you sharpen. You study, you write, you revisit your principles, you lock your standards into place. This is how you install the leader you want to be before the world tests you. 4. Remind yourself of the mission. Not the whole year, not the whole month, just today. What matters right now? Who do you need to be? What needs to be done? The man who steps into the day with a trained mind, a trained body, and a trained state dominates men who wake up and hope for clarity. The busier your life gets, the more responsibility you carry, the more pressure that sits on your shoulders, the more important this rule becomes. Because training is where you win the inner battle before you ever step into the outer one. Training is where you become the man the day needs you to be before the day even starts. And here's the part most people don't understand. This isn't about motivation. It's about conditioning. When you train daily, you no longer need to hype yourself into execution. You no longer need to warm up during your first task. You no longer need to fight through morning fog. You're already in rhythm, already aligned, already present, already sharp, because you trained for it, because you prepared for it, because you didn't leave your performance to chance. These are the reps no one sees. The reps that separate the inconsistent from the unstoppable, the reactive from the proactive, the average from the elite. This is where your identity gets strengthened. This is where your standard becomes unshakable. This is where your execution becomes predictable. Train first, perform second, every day, no matter what, no matter how busy you are, especially when you're busy. Because the faster your life moves, the more you need the stillness, the grounding, and the clarity that training provides. So when the world hits you, and you're not thrown off. You're anchored, you're steady, you're centered, you're ready. You don't show up on accident. You enter the day with intention, with structure, with identity. Rule 6 is how you sharpen the sword before the battle. It's how you stay powerful in a noisy world. It's how you maintain your edge when others are losing theirs. Train before you perform. That's where your real advantage begins. Once you're training before you perform, once you're entering your day already aligned, already grounded, already sharp. Now, we step into one of the most powerful rules of all. Rule 7, set the standard, then raise it. Most people spend their entire lives waiting to be told what's expected of them, waiting for permission, waiting for approval, waiting for someone else to set the bar so they know how much effort to give. But that's not how leaders operate. That's not how men of purpose operate. That's not how ProActivators operate. You don't wait for a standard. You decide the standard. And then you live by it. Not sometimes. Not when it's convenient. Daily. Your standard is not a goal. A goal is something you hit once. A standard is who you are, even on the days that feel heavy. A standard is your baseline. A standard is how you show up in the smallest things. Listen to me closely. People will tell you the small things don't matter, but they're wrong. The small things become the big things. The small decisions become the life direction. The small habits become the massive breakthroughs. If you're sloppy in the small things, you'll be sloppy in the big ones. If you cut corners when no one sees, you'll bend under pressure when it matters most. This is why setting the standard is everything. But here's where men like you separate. You don't just set the standard, you raise it. When other men reach a milestone, they relax, they coast, they let the fire cool down, they slow down the intensity. But Scott, you are built for more, and you know it. You don't raise the standard for validation. You raise it because the version of you from last month, last year, last season is no longer good enough. You evolve, you elevate, you sharpen. You outgrow your own behavior, not from insecurity, but from clarity, from conviction, from purpose. Because you know there's more in you, and settling would be a betrayal of the man God is shaping you into. Here's what this looks like in real life. You don't match energy, you set the tone. You don't follow the room, you elevate the room. You don't chase approval, you model excellence. You don't make decisions based on mood, you make decisions based on mission. People feel this when you walk into a room. They feel your presence, they feel your discipline, they feel your standard, and they either rise to meet you or fall off. But either way, you don't lower your standard to make others comfortable. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you a leader by identity, not by title. And here's the part that most men never understand. Raising your standard isn't about grinding harder. It's about becoming cleaner, more precise, more intentional, more aligned. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things with excellence. It's about auditing your habits, your patterns, your behaviors, not from shame, but from vision. Asking yourself, where can I sharpen? Where am I coasting? What's one habit I need to tighten? What's one behavior I need to eliminate? Where is my comfort creeping in through the back door? This is where you separate from 99% of men. Because average men only raise their effort when something breaks. They only change when they get a wake-up call. They only evolve when life forces them to. But you raise the standard proactively. You raise it before the crisis, before the pressure, before the consequences, from intention, not fear. And that mindset makes you unstoppable. Because when life hits you, and it will, your standard is already high. Your foundation is already solid. Your identity is already conditioned. Your structure is already in place. The key to Rule 7 is simple. You don't lower the standard for convenience. You don't adjust it for approval. You don't let emotions rewrite it. And you definitely don't let the world tell you what's acceptable. Because the standard wasn't built for the world. It was built for you and the man you are becoming. Raise it, live it, protect it, model it, and watch what happens. Your life elevates. Your relationships elevate. Your business elevates. Your confidence elevates. Your identity elevates. Because every time you raise your standard, you raise the ceiling of what your life can become. This is who you are. This is who you've always been. And this is the level you're stepping into with precision. Set the standard, then raise it. Because once you've set the standard and raised it, once your life starts reflecting that elevated identity, the next rule becomes absolutely essential. Finish what you start. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, not when the conditions are perfect, every time. Consistency doesn't mean you do something forever. Consistency means you do what you said you would do until it's done. And this is where most men break. Starting is easy. Starting feels exciting. Starting feels fresh. Starting gives you dopamine because of possibility. But finishing requires identity. Finishing requires discipline. Finishing requires character. Finishing requires fire when excitement wears off. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they stopped halfway. Not because they lacked the ability, but because they lacked the follow-through. They let boredom win. They let distraction win. They let new ideas seduce them. They let old habits pull them off the track. But you're not built like that. You've proven this over and over. You don't disappear when it gets tough. You don't crumble in the middle. You don't walk away when the shine fades. You finish. But now you're leveling up. Now you're building the skill of finishing with precision. Not occasionally, intentionally. Not by accident, but as a rule. Here's the blueprint. 1. You hunt for open tasks that need to be closed, Not someday, today. Projects that need to be wrapped up, calls that need to be made, conversations that need finishing, work that needs to be submitted, anything lingering in limbo. 2, you close them. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just fully. From open to done, from started to completed. 3, you break big goals into finishable chunks. You don't try to finish the whole mountain. You finish the rock in front of you, then the next one, then the next one. Finishing is a muscle, a habit, a pattern. And like any muscle, it grows with reps. And here's the truth: unfinished work is heavy. It drags your mind, it drains your clarity, it slows your momentum, it weakens your confidence. But when you finish, when you follow through, when you close the loop, that weight disappears. You feel lighter, sharper, stronger, more in control, more grounded, more aligned. Because finishing isn't just about getting things done. It's about proving something to yourself. I do what I say. I finish what I start. I don't leave things halfway. I can trust me. Self-trust is built right here, not in intention, in completion. And that's what makes you powerful. People talk about confidence like it's a personality trait, but confidence is built from finishing, from execution, from delivering, from following through when no one is watching. That's why people respect you. It's not just your presence, it's your consistency. It's the way you show up when others quit. It's the way you lead yourself when the world isn't applauding. But Rule 8 sharpens that even more. Here's where most high-level men get tricked. Sometimes you start something that doesn't belong in your mission anymore. The old version of you committed to it. The new version of you knows it's wrong. In that case, finishing doesn't mean grinding through something that no longer serves your evolution. In that case, finishing means eliminating it with intention, cutting it off cleanly, not leaving it in limbo, not letting it drag behind you like dead weight. You're either finishing it or killing it, but you're not carrying it in the middle. Your future cannot be built on half-finished work. Your identity cannot be strengthened through almost. Your momentum cannot flow through maybe. This is where consistency becomes character. You write the email, you finish the task, you clean up your space, you make the call, you follow through, you do what you said. Not for validation, for identity. Because you know the truth. Finishing is not about speed. It's about completion. It's about alignment. It's about integrity. It's about reinforcing who you are. When the big goals come, and they will, you'll be ready. Not because you suddenly became stronger, but because you've been training this muscle daily. This rule right here is how you separate. This is where your reputation strengthens. This is where your reliability becomes undeniable. This is where your self-respect deepens. Finish what you start fully, cleanly, consistently. Not perfectly, just completely. That is Rule 8, the rule that builds a man's identity from the inside out. Once you've committed to finishing what you start, once your identity is reinforced through follow-through, and you're walking around with that clean internal momentum, now we hit Rule 9. Move your body with purpose. Every single day, you already train. You already move. You already understand the value of physical discipline. But Rule 9 isn't about fitness. It isn't about aesthetics. It isn't about hitting a PR or building muscle for appearance. This rule is about state control, identity control, psychology, momentum, presence, command. Your body is the fastest way to shift your state. Your physiology drives your psychology. Your movement drives your mindset. When you move your body, you change your energy. When you move your body, you reset your mind. When you move your body, you break patterns of hesitation, stress, or stagnation. Motion destroys mental loops. Here's the truth. Most people live from the neck up, disconnected, tense, sedentary, trapped in their thoughts, overwhelmed by their own nervous system. They sit all day. They hold stress in their shoulders. They tighten their jaw. Their breathing is shallow. They never interrupt the tension. Then they wonder why they can't think clearly, why they feel stuck, why anxiety creeps in, why small things overwhelm them. They forgot the simplest truth. You have a body, and that body is a weapon. Movement is how you turn that weapon on. Movement is how you shift from fog to clarity, hesitation to action, anxiety to confidence, stagnation to momentum, overwhelm to command, reaction to leadership. Movement is the trigger. And listen, this rule isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. You move every day. Some days it's training. Some days it's walking. Some days it's stretching. Some days it's breathing work. Some days it's sweat. Some days it's slow. Some days it's controlled. But you move, not for your body, for your mind. Your body anchors your identity. Your body communicates strength to your mind. Your body tells your nervous system, we are not stuck. We are not soft. We are not overwhelmed. We're in motion. We're activated. We're leading. Movement is a form of leadership. And here's what most people never realize. Stillness for too long becomes stagnation. Stagnation becomes mental fog. Fog becomes self-doubt. Self-doubt becomes procrastination. And procrastination becomes a lifestyle. But movement breaks the entire chain. When things feel off, when your mood is low, when the day hits you sideways, when your clarity slips, when pressure builds, when stress kicks up, you don't think your way out. You move your way out because your body shifts faster than your thoughts. Movement resets your chemistry. It resets your breathing. It resets your clarity. It resets your confidence. And this is key for a man at your level. You don't wait to feel good to move. You move to feel good. You don't wait to feel ready to take action. You move your body and readiness follows. Movement precedes mindset. That's why this rule matters so much for you. Your vision is big. Your responsibilities are heavy. Your potential is uncommon. You cannot afford to carry stagnant energy. Movement makes you sharper. Movement reinforces discipline. Movement builds emotional resilience. Movement stabilizes your nervous system. It's not optional. It's not extra. It's essential. And here's the bonus. When you move daily, your posture shifts. Your confidence shifts. Your presence shifts. Your tone shifts. Your self-respect elevates. People feel the difference because a man who moves is a man who leads. So rule 9 is simple. Move your body with purpose every day. No negotiation, no delay, no skipping. Not because it's nice, but because it's necessary. This is how you maintain your edge. This is how you break old patterns. This is how you keep momentum alive. This is how you stay constant in a world full of chaos. Movement is medicine. Movement is identity. Movement is momentum. Movement is leadership. And for you, movement is part of your calling. Once you move your body with purpose, once you activate that internal power, once you shift your state through motion, you arrive at the final rule. Rule 10, finish strong. This one right here separates men permanently. Not the morning, not the peak moments, not the easy hours, the ending. Finishing strong is the habit of a man who refuses to let circumstances write the story of his day. Most people let the beginning of their day dictate the end. If they woke up late, they carry it. If they missed a habit, they spiral. If they got behind, they quit. If things went sideways, they throw the rest of the day away, as if the day is no longer worth saving. But you're not most people, and your day isn't over until you say it's over. Finishing strong means this. No matter how the day started, no matter what happened in the middle, no matter what went wrong, you close the day with intention, with clarity, with integrity, with power. This is where true leadership shows up. Not in the easy moments, in the recovery. It's easy to win when everything goes right. But finishing strong, that's what builds identity. That's what sharpens character. That's what develops resilience. That's what separates men who talk about discipline from men who live it. Finishing strong is how you train your nervous system to trust you, to believe you, to follow you. Because there will be days when everything goes off track. Days when you slip. Days when emotions hit. Days when life piles up. Days when momentum breaks. Days when your rhythm gets interrupted. You don't spiral. You don't quit. You don't throw the day away. You regroup. You breathe. You take inventory. You ask yourself, what still needs to get done for me to feel proud when I close my eyes tonight? And then you do it. One thing, two things, whatever matters, whatever anchors the identity you're building. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be intentional. Finishing strong isn't about perfection. It's about ownership. It's about saying, today may not have been perfect, but I'm still in command. I'm still leading. I'm still building. I'm still aligned. This is where confidence compounds, not from perfect days, but from imperfect days where you still led yourself. Finishing strong means you refuse to close the day in chaos. You refuse to leave your mind scattered. You refuse to go to bed misaligned. You reset. Here's how you finish strong in a practical way. 1. Review the day without emotion. What worked? What didn't? What do I need to carry forward? This isn't judgment. It's refinement. It's self-coaching. 2. Close open loops. Don't go to bed with things hanging over you, even small ones. Finish something clean before the day ends. 3. Prepare for tomorrow. Set the environment, set the intention, set the structure. So you don't wake up scrambling. You wake up already in position. 4. Build stillness before bed. Not noise, not scrolling, not stimulation. Quiet, reflection, letting your mind process and reset. Because tomorrow's win begins the night before. People will ask you how you stay so consistent, how you stay sharp, how you stay grounded, how you keep momentum day after day. And the answer is this: you don't end the day on accident. You end the day on purpose. Finishing strong builds emotional momentum. It builds resilience. It builds stability. It builds identity. It builds confidence that carries into tomorrow like fuel. This rule is the final link in the chain. Without it, the system breaks. With it, the system becomes unstoppable. Finish strong every day, not because the day was perfect, but because you are committed, because you are aligned, because you are intentional, because you are building something bigger than a schedule. You're building a life, a legacy, a future, an identity. This is where the ProActivator inside you fully installs itself. Not in the beginning, in the finish. Not in the highs, in the follow through. Not in the perfect conditions, in the precise execution on imperfect days. Finish strong every day, every season, every chapter. That's how a man becomes unstoppable. This is Rule 10. The closer, the anchor, the identity lock. As we close this out, I want to bring it back to something real, something personal. Something that's been on my mind since you and I sat across from each other on that podcast. That conversation wasn't just an interview. It wasn't just content. It wasn't just another episode. It was a moment. Your story hit me. Your honesty hit me. Your mindset hit me. Your hunger for growth hit me. And it hit the audience the same way. I've had people reach out saying they felt your discipline, your clarity, your conviction. They heard a man who's already leading at a high level, but also a man who is hungry for more. A man who hasn't peaked. A man who's still climbing. And that's what stood out to me the most. The best is yet to come for you. Everything you've lived, everything you've built, everything you've survived, Everything you've sharpened, it's all foundation, not the peak, the beginning. And when a man like you begins to elevate his standards, not once in a while, but daily, not emotionally, but structurally, not externally, but internally. And when you start embodying these rules, when you start moving with the identity of a pro activator in everything you do, there is no ceiling. None. Not on your impact, not on your leadership, not on your influence, not on your business, not on your calling, not on your future. A man with your discipline, your hunger, your character. Once you lock into these rules deeply, you become unstoppable. Not loudly, but quietly, consistently, unshakably. Because proactivators don't wait for life to change. They change themselves first. They don't wait for permission. They take ownership. They don't drift. They decide. They don't tolerate patterns that weaken them. They terminate the habits that don't serve them and activate the habits that edify their life and the lives of everyone around them. And you're already living like this. Now it's just about going deeper, sharpening the edges, raising the standard yet again, installing these rules not as ideas, but as identity. I want you to hear this as your, not as a speaker. If you choose to live as a pro-activator for life, truly live it, you will become a force that others feel without you ever needing to say a word. Your family will feel it. Your circle will feel it. Your clients will feel it. Your future will feel it. The world around you will adjust to the standard you set. Every rule you embody becomes a brick in the foundation of your destiny. Every standard you raise becomes a signal to your future. Every habit you activate becomes a weapon against passivity. Every habit you terminate becomes a victory in the unseen hours. The next chapter of your life is not about working harder. It's about rising higher. It's about sharpening your identity. It's about walking in the calling God has placed on your life with conviction, clarity, and courage. You're not becoming a pro-activator. You already are one. Now it's about committing to it for life. So here's the call to action. Step fully into this identity. Live these rules. Protect your focus. Own your mornings. Dominate your decisions. Raise your standard. Finish what you start. Move your body with purpose. Finish strong, daily, relentlessly, without apology. Become a pro-activator for life. Not because it sounds good, but because it's who you are at your core. Pro-activators terminate habits that don't serve us and activate habits that build us, strengthen us, and elevate everyone around us and your life, your leadership, your story. It's already evidence of what happens when a man chooses to live activated. The best is still ahead. Let's keep moving forward.